Welcome back to Drafting with Mark, and in this video we're going to take a look at drawing something a little bit different. As you can see on my screen, we have a cooktop here, and this is something that's going to be real life and practical for you. Now in this video we're going to concentrate on just drawing the outline of this one, right? So I'm just going to draw this top view, this bottom view, and the right side view. So we're going to create those views, and then in the next one on this one we're going to go through dimensioning this, and I've decided I think I'm going to do this one in paper space as it seems much likely. Now if you leave me a comment and see if you want to do this in 3D as well, because this will be a really good one that we can do as an assembly in Inventor, go ahead and leave me a comment on that one. Alright, so without further ado, let's get ready to start doing this in AutoCAD. Alright, let's go ahead and do some of the normal stuff we always do. Let's go and turn the grid off. And then we're going to turn our ortho on. Next, we're going to go ahead and check what O-snaps we have. So here are the running O-snaps that I'm going to use. You can go ahead and pause the screen and select these. And you can see my dynamic input is turned on. This is one of the things that I always like to have down here. And if you want to have this icon here, it's going to be underneath the 3 customization bars here on the side, and make sure you put a check next to the dynamic input. Alright, so those are going to be my standard things that I'm going to use. Let's first start by creating a rectangle. So I'm going to go with a rectangle. I'll click here, and this drawing is actually done in millimeters. So I'm going to type in 176, comma, and I think I did this backwards, 216. So it's going to be rectangular in the other direction. So we're just going to flip this one. Alright, so I'm just going to use the rotate command. I'm just going to select the rectangle here. Go to rotate. Go ahead and select this endpoint here. And I'll type in 90. Okay, so here's the base for my cooktop. Next thing I want to do is go ahead and create one of the eyes here, right? So I'm just going to kind of create this here on the side. Let's go ahead and start with a few circles here, and they're going to be circle center diameters. I'll click here. The first one should be 55.6. Then the next circle center diameter I'm going to place. It's going to be right at that center, and it's going to have a diameter of 46. Then I have to create one more circle center diameter. I'm going to go at this center again. And this one has a diameter of 28. Alright, so those are my first 3 circles here. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and kind of create as much of this that I have, right? So what I want to do first is I'm just going to create a construction line that's vertical. And I'm going to place it right through the middle of this. And it should go right at this center here. Alright. Next, I do have the thickness that I want to make these, and I'm referring back to the drawing. And from here you can see that it's going to be a thickness of 4. So I'm just going to go ahead and offset this line here, and I'm going to rotate it to create those. And then from there, I'm going to go ahead and start creating this bottom view. Okay? Alright, so remember that we're going to use the offset command. I'm going to type in a distance of 2, which is going to be half of that thickness that I'm going to need. I'll select this line here, offset it to that side, select this one, offset it to this one, escape. Let's go to rotate, select these 3 lines. Let's go to the center of this circle here. Make sure you select the word copy on your command line, and then type in 90. Alright, now I'm just going to come down here to the bottom and start creating my bottom view here. What I'm going to use is that some of these lines that I already have created here. So I'll go back to the construction line. I'm going to select vertical. And then I'm just going to go through quadrants or intersections. So I'm just going to left click here, here. And I'm just going to keep going all the way across. Alright, so now once I'm done with that, I'm going to draw a vertical line, a horizontal line going right through here. Now what I like to usually use is the EX trim command, since that's going to be one that's going to speed this up so much quicker. So EX trim, go ahead and hit enter. Go ahead and select the line you just created and then click below it. Alright, next thing I need to do is that I know the overall thickness of this line here, right? So I'm going to offset up the height of this. So I'm just going to go to offset. I'm going to type in 20.4. And I'm going to offset this line going all the way up. Alright, now from this middle line I need to offset because the overall length of this thing is going to be 67.6, right? So let's go to the offset command. Then I'm going to use the calculator function by typing in apostrophe CAL, enter. The reason I'm using this is because AutoCAD does not like decimals. What I mean by that is if I go 67.6 divided by 2, AutoCAD can't figure that out unless you put that in a expression for a calculator. So once I hit enter, it now should set that distance for me, which is 33.8. Go ahead and select your line here. Click one time that way. Go back and select this line and go one time this way. Alright, go back to EX trim. Next, I'm going to select this line and then I'll click above it. I'm just going to hit the enter button on my keyboard to repeat the last command. I'm going to select this line. Now click to the right. Hit the enter button one more time. And then I'm going to select this line and click to the left. Alright, so from here, I actually have some lines now that I can use, right? What I mean by that is that I do have the ends of where these lines are going to be now. So I'm going to use that and I'm going to trim off of that once I get that information. Alright, so what I'm looking at is that I do have this overall length is what I have. I also have the length of this. If I go up here to the top and I see that that length is going to be 26. So I'm going to use that length of 26. I can also use an offset of here to satisfy that length. Either one of those are going to work. They should come out to be exactly the same number, right? So with this information, I should have enough to start constructing what these edges are. Alright, so I'm going to use the trim command. And then with the trim command, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and select the crossing edges or the cutting edges. And I'm going to select these two lines. Go ahead and hit enter. And now what should happen is that it should not be able to cut these lines, right? As you can see, they do not intersect with them. So if I try to select one of these lines, it's going to cut right through it, right? So now I'm going to go to mode. And when I switch to mode, right now we're on the quick mode. I'm going to go to the standard mode. And then when I select the cutting line, I get also another one here, which is the edge. So with that, I can select the edge and it's set to no extend. I'm going to change this number to extend now. So when I go to extend, now you're going to see that these cutting edges now extend all the way up here to the top. So when I trim these lines, they will now extend and trim here. Now the only way you can do that is in the mode when you change the mode. So if I go back to mode and I make this back to quick, I no longer get that option. But for what we need right here, that works fine. Alright, let's escape out of this command. Let's go ahead and draw a line going from this endpoint, going straight down. Likewise on the other end, I'll draw a line from here, going straight down. Let's go ahead and go back to the offset command, type in 26 as my distance. I'm going to select this line here, offset it to the inside. Likewise with my other line here, and go to that inside. Let's go back to the trim command. And this time, just leaving it at the quick option, I can trim off these portions here. I'm going to also trim off these portions in between, and you can see I accidentally trimmed off something I didn't need. So I just go to the undo function in the command, and then go back and trim off these portions, right? Just going to go ahead and use a fence and make it a little quicker on myself here. Alright, so once I'm done trimming this, here at the top, I'm just going to do a rotate and copy on these, right? So I'm going to go to rotate. Let's use a blue window to go across here. Go ahead and hit the enter button. My base point is at the center of this circle still. So once I click there, select the word copy. Now type in 90 and hit enter. Right? Let's go ahead and keep trimming the rest of this stuff off. So let's go to trim. And then we're going to trim off these remaining portions here. Alright, this top portion is now done. Let's go ahead and delete that line there. And then we're going to come back down here and start working on the rest of this, right? Let's go ahead and start dealing with the top half of this. Alright, so what I'm going to do next is that I know the thickness of this bottom portion here. I'm going to offset a distance of 18 of this line going down. Right? So that's how I'm going to get that portion there. One of the next things I'm going to do also is that this line here is offsetted at a distance of 6, but I can tell already that this distance here, 6 between here, is going to be the exact same number since it actually sets on this edge. So there's going to be kind of no need for me to really offset that line 6 going there. But I do have the offset distance here at the top that I want to do. So I'm going to go to offset. Then let's type in 3.2. And I'm just going to offset this line going down here. Right? Let's go ahead and use this line here to trim down here, right? So I'm just going to draw a line and I'm going to touch this endpoint. Now, if you kind of get out of here as quickly as you mean by, what I mean by that is I'm just going to move my cursor out of there quickly as I can. And then when I come back down, you're going to see the tracking happens. Then I'll left click here and come down to this perpendicular. Let's do the exact same thing on the other side. So I'm going to go back to the line command, touch, and I kind of come out this way, come over, I get my tracking. I'll left click here and come down to here. Let's go to the trim command. Let's go ahead and use my cutting edges. And I'm going to select these two lines here. Go ahead and hit the enter button. And then I'm going to trim off right between here and here. Alright, so I can go ahead and clean out the rest of this just a little bit more if you want. Let's go back to the trim command. And then I'm going to just start trimming off around here. Let's kind of move this up a little bit. And I'm going to do the same on the other side. And then when I get to this bottom portion, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start trimming it here and then here. Likewise on the other side here, trimming there. Alright, so now the kind of eye parts here are really done. Let's go ahead and trim off these portions as well. And then I'm just going to draw a line going straight across here at the top. Alright, let's go ahead and delete that line there. So select it and erase it. Alright, so now let's start building the rest of this on the inside. Next, I'm going to go back to the offset command. I'll type in 4.49. And I'm going to offset this bottom line going up this direction. So that's what's going to give me my 4.49. And then I'm going to go back to the offset command. I'm going to type in 10.49. And I'm going to offset this bottom line going up that direction at 10.49. Right? Alright, so I'm just going to kind of take a look at this one. And I see that over here it kind of goes this way. And then it kind of comes up here. And then it follows across. So I'm just going to draw a line now from this intersection to that intersection. Same thing on the other side here. Line from this intersection down to that intersection. Alright, now I think this is about ready to start cleaning up and trimming this out and getting everything alright. Alright, so let's go ahead and erase some of these vertical lines since we don't need them anymore. And they were this good reference lines for us. So when we started creating this, the rest of this I'm just going to go ahead and start trimming. And I may have gotten rid of a line I really didn't need to get through. So let me go ahead and go back to the oops command, OOPS. And once I hit enter, it'll bring these back, right? I actually meant to keep these two lines here. So I'm just going to go ahead and erase these two lines. Alright, with that done, now let's go ahead and trim this off and hopefully get this part done. So I'm just going to trim off all of these portions in between here. Alright, likewise here at the top, I'm going to trim off these two portions. And then here in the middle, take away here and here. This portion and this portion. And I'm also going to get rid of that portion going right through the middle there. Alright, so now I'm done with both of these. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn these into blocks, as they'll be a lot easier to deal with when I go ahead and put them on my view here. So I'm just going to select this one. I'm just going to go up to the word create. And then it's going to ask me to create a block, right? I'm just going to call this EYE underscore TOP, right? This is my top portion. I'm going to pick a base point, which is going to be at the center of my location here. You can see now that it picked a center for me. I already have the points picked. I got a preview of it. And then I can tell it that this is in millimeters or in inches, right? We actually drew this in millimeters, so if we want to be more accurate with this, go ahead and select millimeters. Go to OK. And then you're going to see that it will scale it down to millimeters, right? It's assuming that my drawing is already in inches. So I'm going to scale this up here in a second, so I'm not worried about it quite yet. Let's do the same on this one. So I'm going to select it first. I'm going to go to word create. I'm going to type in EYE underscore TOP. Sorry, this is not the top. This is the front. RFT. I'm going to go ahead and pick a base point, which I'm going to select here, and I'm going to select this midpoint right here. All right. So now I'm looking at this one again. I have my view of it. I have my base point selected. Once again, this was in inches. I'm just going to tell it that this happens to be millimeters. Once I hit the OK button, and it should scale down just like the other one, right? All right. So let's go ahead and scale these both up to the correct size. So I'm going to go to scale. Just going to put a window around both of these. Hit enter. Click here. And the scale factor is going to be 25.4. Once I hit enter, these should come back to the regular size. Now I should have moved these a little closer, but that's okay. We'll go ahead and adjust it now. Alright, now we can start placing these where I need them, right? First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select my UCS. I'm going to select a square. Then I'm going to place it at that endpoint. Next, I'm going to go to this one. And then I'm just going to tell it to move. Right? I'm going to go to the center, which is going to be the base point that I want this to move to. And now I want this to move to an absolute coordinate. So the benefit of me doing something here is just going to select the dynamic input and turning it off. So once I turn that off, I can type in the coordinates that I need. In this case, it's going to be 54.02, comma, and I have to tell it how high to go up. And in this case, it should be 48. And now that eye should be in the right location. All right. Now the next one happens to be 80 away from that one, so we can go to a move. Or actually, we can do that in a rectangular because it's actually 80 going that direction and 80 going that direction, right? So let's go ahead and use a rectangular array on this one. Let's go to rectangular array. Let's go ahead and select this eye that we created. Enter. It automatically assumes that we have some things here going on. I have 2 columns. Distance in between should be 80. Likewise on the second one, I have 2 columns. Distance here is going to be 80. And I do like to leave my associativity turned off. So I'm just going to go ahead and make that blue and close the array. That associativity just makes these all together, but I'm going to wind up exploding them here if I want to separate them. But right now they're together. All right, let's go ahead and create our other view here. Well, let's go ahead and create the knob next. Yeah, I think the knob will be the next thing we need to do. And that one is going to be really simple. That's going to be 2 circles. So I'm just going to go circle, center diameter. Let's click here. We're going to call it 6. Zoom in here, circle, center diameter here. I'm going to go ahead and switch this one to diameter and call it 14. Right? So we have our 2 circles there. I'm going to create the other 2 circles that's underneath here. I'm going to use a rectangle. I'm going to touch, come down here, do a left click here, and then I'm going to type in the coordinates for it. This thing happens to be 6 high, and we know from the diameter going across at the top is 14. All right, so I'm just going to type in 14,6. And I knew it was going to do that. Let me go ahead and go back to undo. The reason I knew it was going to do that, I just looked down and saw my dynamic input was turned off. Let's go ahead and put that back on. Let's go to rectangle. Once again, track off of here. Click here. Now when I type in 14,6, it should behave the correct way. Alright, let's go ahead and create this as a block. So I'm going to select both of these. I'm going to go to create. I'm going to call this knob underscore top. Go to pick my center point of this one, which should be right at the center of this knob. Alright, and I have that selected and things of that nature. If I want to go ahead and make this millimeters, I'll do that as well. And it's going to get real tiny again. Let's do that. Likewise, let's go ahead and do another one on this one. So this is just a rectangle, but I'm going to go to create. I'm going to call it knob front. Let's go ahead and pick our base point, which is going to be at the midpoint of the bottom of this rectangle here. Once again, I'm going to go ahead and make it in the millimeters. Go to OK. I'm going to move these closer to each other so when I scale these, they're actually going to be the correct scale. So I'm going to go to scale and I'm just typing in SC, enter, put a window around it, enter, pick a base point somewhere close to it, 25.4, and there's my knobs. Okay, so let's go ahead and place the knobs now, right? So our distance for our knobs happen to be along this point here. So it's actually, what, 23.4 going backwards this way, and then it's 40 coming down. So the ideal location to move my UCS is by selecting here, and then I'm just going to place it at this top end point. Let's go ahead and turn the dynamic input off again. I'm going to select my top knob here. Go ahead and pick that end point there. And then I want to move it, right? So I'll go to move. It's looking for the absolute coordinates right now because my dynamic input is turned off. So remember that I got to go negative 23.04 in the X direction, comma, and then I want to go down 40. So that's going to be a negative 40. All right, let's go ahead and turn our dynamic input back on by selecting that icon there, or you can hit F12 on your keyboard. Either one will work. Alright, so now that we have this created, let's go ahead and make an array of this one as well. So let's use a rectangular array again. I'm going to select here, enter. Now, this is where you kind of understand that I only have one row. And then I have one column, I have 4 rows. The distance between each one of these on my rows is a negative 32. Negative 32. And that should be all the information that I need to create this. The associativity is turned on this one. I'll go ahead and close the array. Alright, and my top view is now done, right? Alright, let's go ahead and construct the other 2 views. Alright, so I'm going to go to the rectangle command, right? So back to rectangle. I'm just going to track off of here. I'm going to come down. I'll click here. I know the distance going this way is 216, comma, and then the height of this is 8. Make sure that your dynamic input is turned back on so you get the @ symbol in front of it. Alright, I'm just going to go and create a couple of construction lines. Make sure that they're vertical. Then I'm just going to select these 2 centers, right? So I'm going to select that center and this center. And since I'm doing it, I'll select this center as well. Now I'm going to select my eye that's over here, the front view. I'm going to copy that one. And I'm going to go from this midpoint to that intersection, and then I'll put another one at that intersection. Likewise here, I'm going to select this and I'm going to go do a copy of this one, and I'm going to select it from this midpoint to that intersection. Alright, that view is done now. Go ahead and delete that. And since I have this UCS here, let me go ahead and put that in the back at the right location before I forget about it. So I'm just going to select the drop down and type and go to the WCS, and that'll put that at the right location. Next, let's go ahead and create the view that's going on this side, and then we'll rotate it down. So I'm going to go back to the rectangle command. I'm going to track off of here, coming over here. And now I know the length of it going this direction is 8. So I'm going to type in 8, comma, and then the height of this is 176. So 8, comma, 176. I have that created now. Next, I'm going to go ahead and make a couple of construction lines. That's going to be horizontal. So I'll select horizontal. Go to the eye, the center of these eyes. And then I'm going to go to the center of each one of these knobs. So I'm going to place a horizontal line at each one of these knobs here. Next, since I'm here, I'm just going to rotate this 90 degrees. And then I'm going to go ahead and place them, right? So I'm going to go to copy, select my knob here, go to that midpoint, and then I'm going to select it here at this intersection. And while I'm doing it, I'll just knock out all of them. All right. Now I can erase this one. And then we're going to take a look at this, and we're going to rotate this as well. So I'm just going to rotate it, select it, go to a base point here, type in 90, copy. And then I'm going to copy it from this midpoint to this intersection. And we have one more intersection here, which is located not there where I selected. Let me undo that last one and place it at this intersection right here. All right. Okay. So now we have all of this stuff done. Let's go ahead and delete those lines and delete here. Then I'm going to select this and I'm going to rotate it a -90. Let's go ahead and move it from this endpoint. Let's go down to this endpoint here. And I'm going to move it one more time. I'm going to move this shape over a little bit. Okay. Last thing I can do is I can go ahead and put the hatches on these. As you can see, they're kind of going through this. If you want to be a little bit more exact with these, you can explode these and just trim out in between them. And that's probably a better idea of doing this. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and select these. And then let's type in the explode command. So I'm going to explode them. And then with these rectangles are still intact, right? So the EX trim button or command works really well. So EX trim. Now what I can do is select this rectangle and then click to the inside. And it should trim off all this stuff on the inside. I'm just going to hit the enter button. I'm going to do the next one. So select that one. Go to the inside. We got an extra line now we have to come back and delete. But just enter, select, click on the inside. And then finally, the last one that's located here, select, and then click on the inside. All right, let's go ahead and clean this up a little bit by getting rid of these two lines here. Go to the hatch command. So I'm just going to go a hatch. Waiting on the dialog box to appear. The one that I'm going to use is going to be, and I know we have a cross one in here, is an ANSI 37. Now, instead of using pick points, I'm going to use the select option. And what that's going to allow me to do is go ahead and select the actual rectangles. Now, these are going to come in as blocks here in the beginning, but we'll go ahead and clean that up here in a second. All right. I don't know what my scale factor is, so I'm just going to kind of play around with some numbers here. Let's type in 20 and see what that looks like. And 20 seems to be fine for here. I'm going to close this hatch creation. Then I'll come over here and finally do this one, right? So just going to do a hatch on this one. Just going to click on the inside of here. Oh, it's still asking me to select. I'll select it here and go ahead and close the hatch creation. All right. So this was a nice long video, but this is sometimes what it takes to create something that's more practical. And hopefully you enjoyed this one. And if you want to see me dimension this and put it on a title block, and like I said, I'm going to use it in paper space. So if that's one of the things that you're kind of curious about or want to see something, or hopefully I explain it well enough for you to see it in a real life practical aspect of it, please let me know. All right, so thank you for staying with me this long, and thank you for watching. And remember that in the next video, we're going to do some dimensioning and placing this on the title block. Thank you.